Yeah, you are welcome to the Eseosa blog. Uh, my name is Dele Bello. I'm the founder of the Eseosa blog. Eseosa blog is a blogging page uh, about African affairs, about anything that involves Africa in the world, in the worldwide. Uh, as you can see, in the past few years, Africa has been uh, under the influence of a foreign government, foreign people, and the inferiority of we Africans. Uh, we are going to be talking a lot in this very platform, this blogging page and broadcasting page. Apart from broadcasting, we have a written history, so many uh, dating back to when Africa were under the colonial rule, especially about West Africa, because this is where African is really, really messing up, to say the fact. And we are going to be doing things that are not sugar coated. We doesn't have to favor anybody. We are going to be talking about our leaders. We are going to be talking about our citizens, our people, why they are so brainwashed, and uh, in this situation where we are today, why our leaders are so um, why our leaders are so brainwashed, also being a puppet to the Western world. Uh, we are going to be taking countries, for example, like Rwanda, uh, Nigeria, Ghana, Gambia, and so on, because we can, Sudan of yesterday, tomorrow, on the we also have Libya, we have Egypt, we have Tunisia, we have Morocco, we have so many, we have Niger, to say the fact. Africa is in a condition where Africa is going down. Africa is going down, and we, the youth of Africa, we are not recognizing that. And we are always giving our leaders the we are always saying our leaders are responsible for what is going in Africa. We also have to take the youth. We have to give the youth a responsibility that they are also responsible for what is also going on in Africa today. Because election and others, military overthrow and other that is going on today, you can see the role of the youth of today and the youth of tomorrow, the role they are playing in those elections, in those military taking over governments and all that. And those military taking over governments, they are under the influence of uh, uh, under the foreign countries like the Americans, the Russians, the French, China, and so on. And African has been in this position for too long, for too long. I believe this is the time to free Africa from all this mess, because we, the youth, we have to stand up for our people. You know, before the war between Russia and Ukraine started, I was trying to talk to my people about this in other on in another platform. I was putting up writing what Africa should expect, what is going to happen to Africa if this war took place. You see, many people were accusing me that time of maybe exaggerating and bringing things that are not unnecessary. But today we can see the impact of this war in Africa. We can see that this battle is not just fought in Ukraine; it's also fought in Africa as of today, because of our brainless people. Some of them are just like a ghost, or like zombies who are just walking without thinking, only thinking of your daily bread. You know, you still have to think about tomorrow, think about your children's children, because this is what the Americans and the Europeans are doing. We have to. Africa should not be the resources of the world uh, without gain. Africa should stop feeding the world without gaining anything from Africa. from the Westerners or from the Chinas or whatever or whoever is responsible. Africans should not be fighting themselves because people want us to be fighting ourselves. It is time for Africa to start thinking for himself, be independent, because Africa of today is so independent, so independent. You can see, for example, the Nigerian election, what we saw was just unacceptable. You know? I'm not talking about the election outcome, but during the preparation of the election, we saw all the foreign interference in Nigeria, and when the candidates who went to London in Chatham House to campaign, they showed a good sign of weakness from our leader. No British Prime Minister, no British Foreign Minister, no British, let me say, mayor will come to Nigeria, to Lagos or to Abuja to campaign for his position. You can see how Africans are doing what they are doing to themselves. It's not even the Westerners who are doing this. It is our people. It is ourselves that is doing all these things to themselves. So it's time for Africa to be waking up, the education, re-education of our people, to be free of Western religion, to be free of the Arabic religion. Africa has been existing before these people. And so we have to bring Africa to the forefront again. I know it's not going to be an easy job. And if you are interested in talking about all these things, send me a message and I will bring you to this page. Then you can talk about Africa without sugarcoating. Talk to your leaders, talk to your youth, talk to the children of Africa, talk to the foreign children of Africa who are elsewhere, like somewhere like Jamaica, Barbados, Antigua, in the United States, in the Great Britain. We have so many of them. We have them in Brazil. We have them everywhere. We need to talk to them. They need to know more about Africa. Why all Black people are suffering in the world today. Go to Brazil, people you see suffering more are the Africans. You go to Mexico, the people you see suffering more are the Africans. Go to the United States of America, who is preaching freedom and blah, blah, blah to us. The people that are most killed in America, that are most poor in America, these are the Black Africans. And so we need to be talking about this, why everything is just happening to Africa, why we don't value our own, why we don't value ourselves. We need to start coming up with such things for Africa to start growing economically. There's a lot. When I talk about Rwanda, somebody like Rwanda president, I can't understand that person, and I can't understand why an African person will come out and start praising the president of Uganda, who is helping other European countries and American countries, destabilizing Congo. We need to start talking about all these things. We need to talk about South Africa, why South African Blacks are killing other Black people living in their country. We need to talk about Tunisia, why Tunisia is mishandling the Black Africans. We need to talk about Morocco doing the same thing. We need to talk about Egypt doing the same thing. We need to talk about ourselves, we as an African, we as Black people, why we are mishandling ourselves, enslaving ourselves. Go to Libya today, you see slaves. I cannot understand why a person will stand up and say he wants to go to the area. Look at Sudan yesterday, or let me say, in the beginning of this conflict in Sudan, the people that suffers more were the Black Africans there. Because the Black Africans country was unable to evacuate their citizens, apart from Nigeria. Nigeria Air Force who went there, and I also praise the Nigerian government for doing that. Nigeria has been playing a powerful role in Africa, bringing Africa forward. But other African countries like Ghana has been disgracing us everywhere, and South Africa at the same time. You see the coronation of Prince Charles think last week, you saw what happened on the British people who killed almost a billions of Africa. Let me say, not don't let me exaggerate, let me just put it. Let me say millions of Africans who throw them in the sea, do everything, enslave them, uh, could not even till today find a word of to say we are sorry for what happened. You see all Africa, we are rejoicing with them, upon what they're still doing to our people today. If you go to somewhere like Jamaica, Barbados, and all those areas, Tigua, and all those small countries in the Caribbean, you will see what is happening there. You see how British are maltreating these people. This was not just a fake history. This is what's happened live. People still remember the children of these people. It's still life with them. The sorrow they pass through. We need to talk about the slavery. We need to talk about the aftermath of the slavery. What happened? We need to apologize for what we did to our people without sugarcoating anything. We need to do so many things, even before the slave trade. Before the slave trade, what happened? What happened before the European slave trade happened? There was also another slave trade, the Arabic people enslaving Africans. We can see that in Morocco today. We can see that in Syria. We can see them in Jordan, in Yemen, and all those areas. How our people are still treated today. We need to talk about that. We need to love ourselves, because our forefathers, they made mistakes, but these mistakes need to be corrected by us. We don't have to sugarcoat everything. We are doing exactly the same thing our forefather did, by closing their eyes not to see what was happening in Africa. We need to do something about that. We need to talk about Africa without border. Africa without borders. If you are interested in joining this show, or you want to be a guest in this show, send me a message. I will bring you forward, and then we will talk about Africa as required. You see, I saw a video of recent, seeing an African contingent, military contingent or whatever, in Ukraine, standing there, supporting Russia. Many people really doesn't understand the role Russia has been playing in Africa, and the role the United States has been playing in Africa. Africa has been a playing ground for America, and Russia has been on the battleground at the same time. In Libya, everybody talk about what the Westerner did, how they killed, for example, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, but nobody talk about the role Russian play, and still playing today. Nobody talk about the role Erdogan, Turkish president, play in that conflict, and still playing today in that conflict. How Libya oil is being exported to the Western world without a reward. And Nigeria, one of the richest countries in the world, mineral resources. Talk about Democratic Congo. You see how rich that country is. Why everywhere is destabilized in Africa. We need to talk about so many things. We need to bring so many things to the Western world, to bring to their knowledge, because they don't really understand. Because when they see you as an African, they still think you are sleeping on the tree, and or in the cave. But they don't know Africa has grown to that extent that we are competing with them. And our leaders should wake up. Our leaders of tomorrow should wake up. We are coming, and then we are going to stay. And we are going to be talking about all these things. And while we should not be closing our eyes, allow everything to rotten down before we stand up to stop. The most shameful part of everything, what is going on Sudan today. No African country stand up to mediate between the both parties. You can see how these people were brought to Saudi Arabia to start negotiating. We know what Saudi Arabia did to Yemen. Yemenis people, how the Yemenis people are still starving today with the help of the Americans supporting Saudi Arabia to destroy Yemen. And Iran also played their own parts. We don't need to be a slave to all these countries. We need to start standing up, standing for Africans, not standing for all these people who doesn't wish us well. You go to everywhere in the Western world today, in America, you find Africans' properties, you find African artifacts, African histories, all responsible for, stolen. This is time also for us, the youth, to start waking up. We shouldn't think this is not from my country and keep quiet. We should start supporting each other, going forward, telling these people we are not who you think we are. We are very, very different. We are very, very intelligent people. The only thing is you have more weapons. You have more sophisticated weapons. Apart from that, if you think of brain, we have more brain than you people. So it's also time Africans need to invest in their military, their security, building up a sophisticated military security force that can take care of Africa, because we don't need to be dependent on European countries or the American countries or Chinese to be taking off our security. No African country has a military base in the Western world, not in China. I don't see any reason why these people will be having their military base or a naval base in Africa. So we have to start going against all these things. The European government, or what they call the EU, they allow our people to be drawing on the Atlantic Ocean, without rescuing them. Even those people who are willing to rescue our people are being prevented from doing that. And those people who managed to do will be punished because of saving Africans in the sea to drown. I know African is a very difficult place to live because of the economic and the insecurity and all that. But we should stop all these things, because when we all are migrating from Africa, Africa is going down because we are providing the working force for these people. I know people will now say, why are you living in Europe? I'm living here because of some conditions, but nevertheless, Africa is my home, and it is my duty to stand up when I see something that is not really going on well in Africa, to start standing up and say, no, we shouldn't accept this, and we must not accept this. We shouldn't allow this. We should not allow this. Like in the case of Sudan, fighting about a military base or a navy station is just useless, because you people were brought against each other. Then now you start fighting, killing your people. You can see the devastating effect it's having on our people today. The Western world were the first people to evacuate their people quick as much as possible because they know exactly what they instigated. So if I were to be a citizen of Sudan, I will work hardly to make sure we evict these both leaders, because these both leaders are not good. And it's not good for Sudan, because Sudan needs a free thinking citizen who will rule them without the influence of the Western world. What Africa needs is eradicating the influence of the Westerners, of the Chinese, or whosoever is willing. African resources must be for the Africans. It shouldn't bring for the whole world to profit from. So you can see how our people are being treated in everywhere, whether it's in Austria, in Germany, in United Kingdom, in France, in Italy, in Norway, in Sweden, in wherever you go, our people are treated another way as the other people are being treated. Why? Because they don't recognize us as a human being. We are not. They don't recognize us equal to them. So it is time for us to start standing up against all this mess. Uh, if we want to do correction, we should start at our home. We should start in Africa doing all these religions, because we were religious before the coming of the Western religion, the Christianity or the Islamic religion. So we have to start standing up. I know I haven't got enough followers yet, but I will be working towards that to have enough followers. Working hard to have guests in this broadcasting station that we lecture our people about life. How we can keep our culture, heritage without the influence of the Western world, because the influence of the Western world is not good for Africans, because African man is made differently. African woman is made differently from the Western culture. And in some ways, it's very destructive, very, very destructive to us. Because today, if you ask our people their history, very, very few who know their history, But if you ask them the history of Jesus Christ, they will tell you everything 100%. But ask them the history of his grandfather, and we don't know anything about that. Or ask them the history of Muhammad, they will tell you the whole. But ask them the history of their own mother, they don't even know where their mother migrated from, or came from. So we need to start talking about all these things without sugarcoating. Why our people are so brainwashed and living in a fantasy world that doesn't really exist. Because if it is existing, the Western world will not have an atomic bomb. They will not have biological weapons. They will not be robbing Africa of their properties. They will not be going to war if they believe on what they are preaching to you. So it's time Africa regain its strength, regain its history, culture, heritage, and its educational system need to change also if we want to be independent from all these things. Because the civilization that was brought to us is not a good civilization. The civilization they brought is a slave civilization, and we should start talking about that, where our people are so enslaved, especially places like Nigeria today, in Ghana, and all this coast of West Africa. This is mostly where the problem lies. We need to start talking about that, why our people are so ethnic believings and all that ethnicity politics that is going on, especially in Nigeria. In Ghana, is all at the same thing. We as an African, we have to start thinking about ourselves before thinking about other people, because this is what they do in Europe. This is what they do in America. This is what they do in China. If you go to Australia, the same thing. New Zealand, in Japan, this is what they are doing. They think about themselves, their citizens first before thinking about us. People need to start answering their questions. Ask so many questions. People, American, for example, have been pumping money into Africa, but we don't see where the development is in Africa. The money America said is spending for Africa as a helping development or something. We don't see it in Africa. Likewise, the European government have been saying the same thing. They are investing so much in Africa, but we don't see where they invested this money in Africa, apart from arms and ammunition. We don't see the university they built in Africa. We don't see the road they made in Africa. We don't see the train they built in Africa. We don't see the universities that was being built in Africa. So we should start talking about all these things. Let us start talking and talking and talking. Because if we keep quiet, Africa will be going down. It's already going down. Because we are fully dependent You know, even we cannot feed ourselves any longer because the European countries have the monopoly, or the American country now has the monopoly over our crops. For example, the wheat, this was African product till about 30 years ago. You know, if you talk about beans, this was African product, or soya beans. You know, but today everything is being imported to Africa. We don't even have control over anything. Without the wheat from Ukraine, Africa could not even feed themselves, especially those living in East Africa. You know, we need to do something about it. Africa has a fertile land, one of the most fertile land in the world. But why is it so difficult for us to utilize this opportunity to use our power? You know? So I want to, before this show end, please, I'm pleading with everyone, every Africans, please join this page. Make this page to be great. Be my guest. Be my guest. And you will enjoy it joining me in this show. So thank you very much for joining me, and I appreciate. So I want to end it here. We are going to be coming out, I'm going to be coming out frequently, or as much as I can. And also they are going to be written and podcast histories or topics that really matters to our people. And so many other things, Let's talk about Africa. We shouldn't allow people to make our history for us. Let us make our own history for ourselves. So thank you, and have a great day.